about 34.5%, as you can see. But I want to announce to you to say where we are now, currently, at 8 p.m., we have 55.65% of the results captured and in the system. Now, the reason why we do not see all of them on the board is because of the fact that our focus is accuracy, and as earlier explained, to achieve accuracy, we have various processes. The first one being the capturing of the result slip as received after being checked, the scanning of the same result slip as an image matched to that capture, and then the auditing thereof. And those processes, with the lags in between it, give rise to the fact that we have 34.5% of the results reflected on the board, but in the system at various stages, we do have 55.65. Now, I think the focus for us, and you would probably, if you did not understand elections, have now received a short course on elections, going through these processes. Starting out, there was the readiness and the preparation, which we kept you informed about. There was special votes for 2 days, and then there was voting day that we all labored through. The total election, all of that activity, including your campaigning and your votes that you've garnered, it's now been reduced to results and in the form of a result slip, which is going through this capturing process. I think we also earlier may have mentioned to you, or you may have become accustomed, that in the past, by about this time or an hour from now, we normally said about 24 hours after the close of voting stations, our percentage achieved would have been much higher, closer to 80 and high 80%. Now, we did expect that we would take a bit longer this year, and to that extent, we did share with you in earlier media briefings, as a result of that we had planned to have our results announcement on a Sunday. Normally we would have it on a Saturday, but if, however, we do complete in time, that we would still be able to meet that date. So we had made provision for this. Now, what are the factors involved here? What we had envisaged is that in this election, it's the first time that we would have 3 ballots in the metro. Now, you would ask why the metros? There's only 8 metros. All the other municipalities are used to having 3 ballots. First of all, those ballots were shorter. Secondly, the reason why the metros are significant, even though it's only 8 municipalities, as far as the voters' roll population is concerned, the metros constitute more than 55% of all voters. Only 8 municipalities, but 55%. And that is where we also have the current lag as far as the results is concerned. Secondly, as you followed the story throughout the night, a number of our stations where we had queues involved, they closed late. And coupled with that, it had a knock-on effect with counting. We shared with you earlier that we were even counting up until late this morning. Now, I want to make an announcement. First of all, 2 things. The results will continue to, the counter will continue to roll over throughout the night. I also want to say that there are some municipalities, the smaller ones, that are complete and they have packed up and they have gone home. So that is a positive sign, but those are more of our smaller municipalities. For those of you who are staying throughout the night, the boards are up and hopefully the picture will unfold. Important to note at this stage, just another statistic that I want to share with you. Based on what we have on the system, not on the board, the 55.65% captured, we are currently sitting on that amount of votes, sitting at about 58.69% voter turnout. So we're hovering just below 60% with the biggest stations still to come in. I have an announcement in closing. We had the misfortune of losing one ballot box. Now, before we start getting all anxious about this, it is a ballot box that contained ballots that had already been counted and had been reduced to a result slip. So the results are in for that specific one. However, the Commission is required to retain ballot box for a period of 6 months before disposing of them. So we are quite eager to get back that ballot box so that it can go into storage. It was apparently transferred on an open vehicle, and by the time we got to the destination, we discovered that that ballot box has been gone. But I wish to emphasize, those votes has been counted and they have been recorded on the result slip. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Grenville. Thank you for the update. Indeed, the 55% is a beautiful sweetener. After a long day of watching the screen, I'm going to open the floor for questions. We're still counting. We're not staying here the whole night. We just popped in, update, and then we go back to count. I'm going to take only a few hands, then we're out of here. May I request those who've got the microphone, please? Let's start this side. There's a lady next to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Rebecca Davis, Daily Maverick. Mr. Abrams, you've said now, and it says on the IEC website, that voter turnout is looking at about 58.7%. Yesterday, we were told repeatedly by the IEC that we were looking at a record turnout, far surpassing 2019, which was 66%. So that is actually a pretty major decline in voter turnout. How do we explain that, and why did we have such a different impression of it yesterday? Thank you.
Second and third line. Second and third line. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Hawala Magolego from UFM. You know, at the end of the special votes, the chief electoral officer said there was a clear agenda to undermine the credibility of this election. And having said that, after that, there have been so many errors on your side, including this one of losing a box. Does the Commission still want to stand by that allegation that there's a clear agenda? And if so, how do you qualify it? Because it's a serious allegation, particularly considering that you have recorded so many mishaps on your side. And I'm not saying that they were not credible, but those instances took place, including people being turned back under questionable circumstances. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paul. I just want to find out if you guys are in a position to give us the breakdown or the completed counting on provincial, like the provinces, like you did with national.
Say that again, please confirm. Let me hear.
Okay.
Please repeat the question.
Okay. Are you in a position to give us the completed percentages on provinces? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Francis Loagamachate from Progressive Independent News Agency. Mr. Abrahams, are you in a position to disclose where was the lost ballot box coming from? And will you then say there was some negligence in handling the transportation of that lost ballot box, and what penalties are expected for the people that, or the employees or officials that were transporting such? Thank you.
I'm going to take the last question before I allow Grenville to respond. Are we covered? We're good. Okay, let's go, Granville. We'll take the last batch afterwards. Let's respond.
Let's start with the last question first. Yes, indeed, and my sincere apologies. We are able to tell you exactly where it is the ballot box that we are trying to track is in Ward 14 in Umhlatuzi in KwaZulu-Natal. We are obviously all on our own initiative also trying to trace this. But let me just assure you, and I thought that when I addressed this, that I would have eased your concerns. It is inexcusable, first and foremost, and it's not something that we plan for, to find any election material lying around, immaterial of whether it means anything. So if it's even an IEC booklet or an empty ballot box or even a chair, and I've seen some of these things on social media, we find a piece of furniture, it's IEC branded, and then we seem to associate that with the election being compromised. I did emphasize that on this matter, the results, those votes in the ballot box, it was counted. It was recorded on the result slip. So the value is the result slip at the end of the day. However, for sake of completeness, it is important for us that we get that back and place it into storage. As far as negligence is concerned, we do not believe that is the case, but if indeed so, then obviously we would need to investigate further on this matter. How do we explain the decline? I am not aware, if it was mentioned, that we are looking at record turnout. In fact, 66 would not be the record turnout for a national provincial election. It would probably be more closer to 80%, as we had experienced in 1994 and 1999. So I don't think that we would have been under that misconception to make a statement that we would be receiving a record turnout. But how do we explain? I think I also gave an explanation in the figures to say that the 55%, and we need to think about this very carefully. The 55% is not 55% of the overall result. We don't know what the result is going to be until all the figures are captured. The 55%, or in this case, as you see on the board, 34.49, constitutes a percentage of voting districts. And the voting districts that are in are the ones that are smaller, that are closer, probably more rural. I think earlier when we showed you maps, we probably colored in the whole of the Karoo, we colored in the whole of the Northern Cape, except for the Uppington, Kimbling areas, because it's sparsely populated places and it's small numbers, which means counting goes faster, and it also means that capturing would be first in the queue. So it's still early days. That figure could still, depending on what the turnout in the bigger VDs, and more specifically in the metros, as I mentioned, constitutes about 50% of our voter population. Errors, and I think this one also related to the ballot box. Yes. The allegation that, you know, and I don't want to keep on saying this, we don't plan for losing a single ballot box. We don't plan for a single ballot or a ballot book to be lost. But look at it in the context. We have just under 23,000 voting districts. And in this election, we would have probably have had 3 or more ballot boxes. So it's more than 100,000 ballot boxes. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm talking here about a single ballot box. And I don't think that under the circumstances that we could regard that as an error. given the fact that elections are never perfect, but we plan and we strive towards that. The provincial percentages, we can surely make that available at the cross. Someone can assist you, and we can provide you the voter turnout as well as the capture percentage for each and every province. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Grenville. We're in the numbers game. I'm just going to take the last set of questions before we go back counting. There's a hand this side, and then I'll go to the last block. Yes. We'll come back to you. Stacey?
Thank you. It's Natasha Perry here again from SABC News. Mr. Abrahams, do you get a general sense that there's or is there great appreciation of how enormous the task of preparing for elections is? I mean, this time around, you guys printed 90 million ballots. You've had 3 ballots at the voting stations, more voter education. Yeah. So do you get that sense from the public and political parties? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Ngosko Namalinga from Power FM. I just wanted to know, are you presently still dealing with any disputes where the process is concerned at some voting stations and also the results? Ngosko Kakul.
Thank you.
Aviwem Dila from ENCA. Mine is just about the people that turned away. Of course, some of them stayed in the queues up until the early hours of the morning. Are you not worried about those that couldn't stay in the queues and turned and went home and then didn't practice their democratic right to vote?
Can I take the last question from here? Thank you. Oh, okay. Granville, I'm going to take, I think I'm covered. We'll get to your question. I've noted it. Yeah. Okay. Why this mic, Mara, you control? All right, all right. I've got one question from this side. I've got 2 last questions from this side. Then we'll be covered. Okay.
Thank you. I was Kate. I'm sorry, I got the mic before you
I thought
handed
so.
over to me.
I
My
thought
name
so.
is Sam Kokeli. Could I please ask from the IEC if there is anything in this election that has gone wrong in how the IEC sees it? And if there is any area of managing this election where something has gone wrong, where the IEC takes responsibility? Let me put then one thing to you for right of reply, please, with regards to budgeting. The National Treasury has released a statement. It states that it's not true that the IEC's budgets were cut in context of this election. In fact, the IEC got money, 250 million rands, where its budget cuts were reversed at the beginning of the year. It also got to keep a whole lot of money, 1.5 billion rands, and furthermore, 350 million rands was made available to the IEC. In conversation, it was put to the IEC if the question was asked if the IEC needed money for this election, and the IEC did not make any specific requests for further funding for this election. Could the IEC deal with that, please?
Okay. I've got 2 hands from this side, and then we're done. Yeah.
Salaino Makwidi here from Salam Media. My question also touches a bit on funding. On the ground, did you feel the impact of the budget cuts that the IEC has had to endure in this year's election?
Pitso Malamane, Kaya News. In ensuring that there's no anxiety, are we in the position as the IEC to give assurance to South Africans when are we going to end or stop counting? When is counting coming to complete? Thank you.
Okay. I'm taking the last round, and then I'll be closing. Thank you.
Isak du Plessis, in this spot, in connection with the question earlier asked regarding people that had to turn around from the voting stations, people that were registered and had the confirmation that they were registered, coming at the voting station, nothing is there. Everybody tells them they can't help them up to senior level. Can you please react to that?
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you very much, Grenville.
Yeah. In no specific order, the issue of, with all due respect, a lot of these questions have been answered, but I will do it again. Perhaps those who have asked the questions weren't here. The issue of disputes and on the results and that, the Commission is responsible for dealing with objections. And the Commission will deal with these objections before the results are announced. And I think, to quote the Chairperson Muhepia, if you're basically asking us, when are you going to deliver the judgment? All I can say it is, will be before we will announce the results. They apply their minds. The Commission is constituted of 5 commissioners, and one of them has to be a judge. On your right-hand side, we have the department that deals with all of those objections, our legal advisors. And they have been extremely busy. They're out of sight. It looks as if they're doing nothing. But you'll see them compiling piles and piles of files and walking over to the Commission. So that is happening in the background, and it will be dealt with, and it will be responded to. I also want to deal once again and say to you that we have dealt with this question probably about 3 or 4 times, and I can assure you that if voters were turned away, just being registered does not entitle you to go to any voting station. The legislation has been amended, and it is now in line with municipal elections, and you can only vote where you are registered. Did we turn people away? Sure, in terms of the legislation. Because if I was registered, or I am registered in Johannesburg, and I want to vote in Centurion, you are not going to be allowed to, because you need to go to Johannesburg. The one exception would have been the Section 24A. And the Section 24A required you to notify the Chief Electoral Officer that you would be voting elsewhere, and you had to indicate where. So just by virtue of receiving a Section 24A also did not mean that you could go and vote anywhere. Now, we are not as harsh as turning people away. We are equipped to redirect you, to tell you where it is that you should go and vote. Now, the reason why the stipulation is register, or at least vote where you are registered, is so that we can plan for each and every voter. If we have voters that arrive unannounced, then we're not going to have enough people, we're not going to have enough ballot papers, etc. So it's a logistical arrangement. I am yet to find a situation, or if I have been provided with proof or an ID number, and that the person was at a specific voting station where he's registered and he has been turned away. Does the IEC take responsibility for everything or anything that has gone wrong? Yes, of course. We do not shy away from responsibility. And after this election, we will, as we normally do, we will go and debrief, we will reflect, we will also go with political parties and all stakeholders, and we will improve where required. The issue of budget, suffice to say that as all other state-funded institutions, we work within the MTF, and we have to work with what we are given. With the budget that we have received, we were able to have for this election 2 registration weekends, as we always do. We were able to have the activities around Election Day, special votes, and 2 days for special votes, and Voting Day, voting abroad, as well as our voter education program, and seeing to it that each and every voting station is equipped with the materials and of course also the staffing. We were also able to introduce, because of the fact that we want accuracy in counting, as we've mentioned, 3 additional staff members per voting station. When is counting coming to an end? I think that, without going into the details, we are required to announce the result within 7 days. And whether or not counting is done, there is no time frame for when counting should be done. We will finish counting if it's not done when we finish. But the one thing that we will be held accountable to is that we need to announce the results within 7 days of the election. And when we count in the presence of party agents. Just lastly, the question that Natasha asked, the task, yes indeed. What we need to understand is, other than when a country is at war, an election is the single largest deployment of resources. We are not at war, and elections in this country will forever remain the single largest deployment and logistical task. Do we feel that we are appreciated for this task? We feel that this is our responsibility to the nation, and we don't do it to receive appreciation and acknowledgement for what we do. What we do want at the end of the day is to see that our work is reflected in a peaceful transition from one regime or parliament to the next, and that it also unites us as a country successfully in past elections, and we hope it does the same, that there's an initial boost once we have a free and fair election, irrespective of who the winners or losers are, whether it's economic, whether it's in other ways, whether we get more focus from the rest of the world. And that, I think, for us, the fact that we can assist this country, that we are all a part of, I think that in itself is enough appreciation for this organization. I thank you. Can I engage with you on the bilateral? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I bring this press briefing to an end. I'll allow Grenville to do a bilateral with the gentleman. Any other information, we're available on our platforms. You can send WhatsApp, you can send emails. We're available to the nation. We've got social media platforms as well that are available to South Africans, and we have been responding accordingly. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's watch the screen. That's where the results are coming. Thank you very much and good night.